Just what I'll start off by saying is, what was a moment or experience that made you realize that law is your path?
I wouldn't be surprised if our stories are very, very similar as to what inspired us to do this. For me specifically, I was born in Mexico and brought to the United States when I was 4 years old. My parents and I entered without documentation, grew up in the Phoenix area, and unlike a lot of my DACA or Dreamer colleagues, I was told at a very young age that you are an immigrant and you are undocumented. So I remember being 4 or 5 years old and being scared of sirens. You know, maybe not unlike a lot of people in our African American community where there's this fear of law enforcement. I remember my mom telling me, like, never tell anyone you're undocumented. So although I grew up in West Phoenix at like 99% Latino school, I honestly thought I was the only undocumented person there. Right around middle school, I just got tired of it. I'm so tired of pretending that I was the only one. And the moment I started speaking up, oh look, my classmate said it, and then this classmate approached me, and it's kind of like a fire that grows. I think for me, I realized that I didn't want to be a victim of the law. I wanted to be able to know it, wield it, and use it to defend my community.
My story is very similar, I think. I'm also an immigrant. I'm from Mexico. I'm from the great state of Guanajuato. I too, at 4 years old, I was an immigrant. I came undocumented to the United States. I remember vividly. I still, like, it's one of my core childhood memories. We crossed El Rio. It was a night. I remember we crossed, got into Texas, and then we had a coyote waiting for us, right, like a mile down the road, and we had to do all that stuff. So I too am an immigrant. I think for me, my immigrant story is what shaped a lot of kind of who I am and a lot of kind of what I want to do. And I think for me specifically too, what got me into law was my mother, and her struggle, working factory work in the fields. I'm not a DACA like Sal is. I became a citizen not too long ago, but I owe everything that I have to my parents. My dad specifically, he got amnesty in 1986 through the Reagan administration, and he was able to secure a visa, but you had to work kind of in an agricultural kind of field then. And my dad was in Texas, but got a job in the tobacco fields in North Carolina, which is why you see my reference to North Carolina here. I grew up in North Carolina. Most of my time, most of my years have been in North Carolina. And I witnessed, I'm the oldest of 4 siblings, I witnessed my parents sacrifice. I witnessed them struggling. I mean, we were broke, dirt poor, SNAP, WIC, everything. And I think there was a certain point in time when my mom, I remember she just worked really hard. My mom she's that kind of person. I'm sure you guys can kind of relate, where your parents just work to get you a better life. And I remember my mom, I was, I think, a 6th grader, 7th grader. I was near middle school. I remember she came home and she couldn't get up. She literally could not get out of bed. Her back, she had a herniated disc from all the lifting that she had done at the factory where she was at. And seeing her kind of break her back, seeing her realize, you know, kind of the sacrifices that she had made changed my life. And at the time too, I was in middle school. You know, contrast to what Chava said here. I mean, I knew that we were in the process of getting, you know, certain papers, papeles as we call them, citizenship. I also knew that, you know, at the time, we weren't quite there yet. When I was able to finally go back to Mexico and really see the conditions and really see how my parents grew up, because we're from the rancho, we're from the Sierra. I'm like, we're not from, I mean, you want to talk about some just poverty. I mean, just like, I mean, crippling poverty. And once I realized that, once I had a chance to actually see that and witness that, that for me was my reckoning. That was my renaissance. And I said, I gotta do better, right? So I want to say the law for me is a generation sort of changing moment, right? I can change generational poverty and do something I love, by the way. So, anyways, long story short, but seeing my mom and seeing her suffering, as I'm sure you guys can probably relate, seeing them come home late at night and they're suffering, they're working, they're breaking their back, that for me was my moment.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, and I'm sure most of us can really relate to that struggle. And despite of that struggle you were going through, you were still able to come out with an amazing career and an amazing trajectory over your life. But what about you, Salvador? What was your motivation throughout law school or life in general, undergrad, anything?
Honestly, kind of like an echo of what Arturo said. It's my parents came here for, actually, I'll be frank, they came here for a dream to make $5,000 and then go back to Mexico and build up their business. But as all of you, I'm sure, can relate to, is life isn't so easy. You come to the United States and yeah, you're making dollars, but you're spending in dollars too. So within a year, my dad was like, hey, because he came on his own. He told my mom, like, it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. And my mom was like, you either come home or we go with you. So we came. Again, same thing, $5,000, save money. A year later, my brother's born. And then the mission changes, right? Oh, we're not saving money for a business, we're saving money for a house. A house that we never got to live in, but that they sacrificed money for. I think, to answer your question, what motivates me is, you may have heard this described in a couple speeches now by a couple political figures. The American dream is not a marathon. It is a relay race. My parents carried the torch for their American dream, but it doesn't end with them. My job is to pick it up and take it as far as I can in pursuit of their American dream. And my hope is that wherever I end up, I can pass that torch on to my daughters. That is what motivates me. It's the fact that we come from a culture that refuses to be stagnant. We are hungry, whether that means I busted my butt to finally be able to buy a little stove for a little house in El Rancho, or I busted my butt doing final study, preparing for finals at Hayden Library. You know, that is a mission that we all still carry. And as long as you never forget that you are part of that legacy, it's impossible to extinguish that fire.
Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful message, and I think a lot of us feel that way about that American dream, that we feel like we need to fulfill or continue that. It doesn't just end in one generation. It's something that translates to the future generations. But I want to talk about a different question, specifically on what you specialize in your area of law and what made you choose that.
Yeah, I'll start. What we do at our firm is called Chapa Law Group, with 2 attorneys, and we do something called wrongful death and catastrophic injury litigation. What does that mean? It sounds fancy, I know. I guess the umbrella of what I do is, accident attorney law. I'll tell you a story about my clients. That I think is the best way to describe it. Instead of telling you about what I do, let me tell you about my clients, because that's what brings me, what makes me who I am. We just settled a case recently, for example, where I represent a 23-year-old widow. Her husband was killed in a motor vehicle accident last year. The driver that killed him was driving a company truck, driving drunk at 5 a.m. in the morning, ran a red light, and hit and killed a 25-year-old recent immigrant to the United States, leaving Leslie and her daughter, 2-year-old daughter, without a father the rest of their lives. If you ever hear the term wrongful death, you may have heard it in billboards. Wrongful death means you sue someone on behalf of the family. Obviously, we don't have Juan anymore with us. He's gone. But I can represent the family, and I can bring a lawsuit on behalf of the family against the driver and the company that were at fault. Those are the kind of cases that I do. So it's personal injury. The umbrella is personal injury, but I do specifically what's called litigation. And in fact, all of my cases are public. If you go to the law library at the tower downtown and you look up Arturo Gonzalez, you look up my name, you look up my firm, you'll see my cases. It's all public. It's all like, that's why we have courts. We have a public access system. And I file lawsuits on behalf of families just like Leslie's, because I want to give them justice. I can't bring them back. Nobody can bring them back, but I can at least try to get them a sense of justice. I can try to make those that were at fault accountable. Most of my clients are Spanish speaking. Most of my clients are Latino. I'm able to identify, I'm able to relate to them, I'm able to talk to them. I'm able to go to their houses. Every single client that I have, I go to their houses and I speak with them and I get to know the family. Matter of fact, I just got a text this morning, one of my clients, oh yeah, abogado, hey attorney, like, why don't you come to carne asada later? They're inviting me to their home, not to talk about the case, just to hang out, right? And that kind of personal relationship that I have with my clients, I love doing that because ultimately what I'm doing at the end of the day is I'm taking insurance money. If you think about it, right? My clients aren't paying me an hourly fee. I don't get paid by the hour. I get paid if I win a case, if I get compensation, I get my part, I get my cut. But I have to make it work. But I love it, man. I can't tell you how much I love my job, being able to help people that really need help. Because otherwise, the company's gonna say, hey, okay, let me give you $10,000. Here's $5,000, and nah, man, F that. No. We need accountability, and luckily in the United States, we have the system of accountability where we can sue and we can make justice.
And for me, as I mentioned, being undocumented growing up, there's no way to escape immigration's impact on my life. So, like many, I'm just assuming because this is the trend, many of you in this room probably either felt a need to go into immigration law or were encouraged to or felt inspired to do it. I'm not here to deter you from it. What I am here to do is keep your mind open. I went into law school, or the pursuit of law school being, I'm going to be an immigration attorney. And then you get hit with that first semester of law school, and you're like, oh, that is actually a pretty interesting area of law. Oh, I didn't know contract law was cool. I didn't know that entertainment contracts were great. So keep your mind open. I did come full circle and eventually circled back to immigration because I realized that is something that I'm never going to escape. It's something that's always going to be close to my heart, and it's something that, although it can be exhausting, especially depending on administrations, I can't not do it. And in doing so, you wonder, well, then how the heck did you end up doing criminal defense too? Like, how did that plug in? It happened my first year of law school. So I'll be completely transparent. The May leading up to me getting accepted into ASU law, getting a full ride, I went to go celebrate on Mill. Right? Like any good college student would. And I went to go day drink.
Where'd you go?
Where didn't I go? I would tell you the names of the bars, but they don't exist anymore. Anyways. So, yeah, World of Beer. Anyways. I went to go celebrate, and I was at the top of the world. Like, I've never been that high in my life. Like, not only did I just get into law school, I just got a full ride. I'm gonna get a house. Like, I ain't gonna lose. And I started drinking at 2. By 6 o'clock, I was plastered. 2 in the afternoon to 6 o'clock in the afternoon, so day drinking. I knew I couldn't drive, so I stayed at a buddy's apartment. I woke up at 1 in the morning thinking, hey, slept it off. I'm good now. I want to go home. I made a proper right-hand turn, another proper right-hand turn, and mind you, this is all reported in the police report. Got pulled over on Priest and 5th. My world came crashing down. Because as a DACA recipient, anyone who gets convicted of a DUI, you lose your DACA. So I went from being at the highest point of my life to the lowest. And I blew a .09. Legal limit's .08. So literally 0.01 off. I thought I had been fine. I thought I had slept it off, but that wasn't the case. So I spent my whole first semester of law school fighting that criminal conviction or criminal charge. Thankfully, it got reduced down to reckless driving, which then allowed me to renew my DACA, and I was able to continue. But that darkest moment of my life has become one of the strongest tools in my arsenal. That summer, I decided to work for an immigration firm, an immigration lawyer, who I didn't know at the time did criminal law, Alex Navidad. Alex Navidad is now a Phoenix municipal judge. So he's the one who introduced me to like, hey Sal, like, why are you only doing immigration? Like, learn about criminal, because in Arizona, they go hand in hand. And it just opened up my world because I realized a lot of my clients do come because of a criminal incident. And they come in thinking their life is over, they hate it. You know, like I get a lot of clients that come to me like, dude, I was drunk. They straight up tell me like, I was drunk. And I'm like, okay, like, first of all, let me look at the evidence, because I have to see that the cops and law enforcement did what they were supposed to. Because if they did a bad job or they violated your rights, it isn't that I'm trying to get you scot-free and no responsibility, but if they did this with you, they may have done it with other people. And we have to make sure that the work is being done properly. Now, after I review that evidence, hey dude, they did everything right, and you are drunk. Well, then my job is, okay, how can I teach you a lesson, or how can the government teach you a lesson with the minimum amount of consequences possible, and for you to grow and learn from it, or protect you, or maybe give you an opportunity to fight something later. So that's how those two things intertwine for me. And like I said, that happened to me, if I'm not mistaken, it was like May 15th, 2014. So over 10 years later, trust me, it's very vivid in my mind. But that's why I gotta bring it up. I think there's a perception when you have presenters up here, it's like, God, they did everything right, and oh my God, no. We all make mistakes. We've all done ridiculous things. We've all learned from it. And then sometimes when you're going through the darkest point in your life, you might think it's over for you, and little did you know, it becomes your strongest tool. Because when I talk to my clients, I'm like, I know what it means to go home and talk to your parents and let them down. I know what it means to go to your mentor who just fronted money for you to go to school and let them down. I also know what it looks to look in the mirror and think that you're the worst person in the world. But then realizing you're not. You're human, and we all make mistakes. That does not make you a bad person. Just because you committed a mistake does not make you a bad person. It makes you human, and all that matters now is how do you get out of that hole? Because you will. The sun does come up.
Wow, that's really great, and it's really cool and interesting to hear how you transformed the low into actually one of your highs in your career. And that honestly reminded me of one of our events that we had with Arizona Supreme Court Justice Maria Elena Cruz. And she actually said that us being Latino is not a disadvantage, but rather our greatest asset. Why do you think that is?
One of the things that you'll hear in law school is when you are going to classes and you're learning different material, they say that you're building a forest. So here's a tree and you're building a forest. Each tree is a theme. And eventually you build enough trees that you have a forest, and now you understand that area of law. For the life of me, I did not understand that metaphor. I cannot comprehend it. It doesn't make sense in my brain. And it wasn't until my 3L year that I realized why. I come from a family that when it came to resources, our resources were finite. So I didn't have the luxury to have a metaphorical tree that I could just lackadaisically have it floating around until I figure out where it goes. I need to know where it goes. I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the money, I don't have the resources to just wait. I realized that they wanted us, the law school knowledge is to build a triangle with a base low and the point high. I realized I had to think of things differently. I'm at the point down, the base is high. I need to know where things go so then I can learn it. And for future reference, for all of you that will go to law school one day, if you want that answer, look at the syllabus. It's literally that simple. If you look at the syllabus, it tells you where to put the tree. But anyways, I think because we grew up with finite resources, many of us grew up in survival mode. Unfortunately, have trained our brains that way. But that's also a superpower. Because while when it came to moot court competitions or moot court presentations in this class, which are just mock arguments, when it came to presenting, I guess, my argument, it wasn't very strong. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't there. But when it came to giving the counter, I was on fire. Why? Because I can think on my feet. We are damage control geniuses. That is a superpower. Because we know what an obstacle looks like and we know how to overcome it. So when you go into that classroom, and undoubtedly you will feel that imposter syndrome. In our profession, I'm sure to this day you still feel it, and I do too. I remember that they deserve to be there, but so do I. And on top of that, I came here through battles. I have battle scars with me. So I know how to approach the situation. Whereas with one of my colleagues who knows, maybe one day it's my daughter, who had the benefit of having a dad who was a lawyer, gets to her first problem, she may not know how to overcome it. In summary, I guess what I'm trying to say is, we have a superpower because we've had limited resources and we've made gems out of it.
I mean, aside from having the best food in the world, let's just be honest here.
Yeah.
What comes to mind for me is resilience. In Spanish, we call it ganas.
Great.
There is something about Latinos and the resilience that we have. And it's not because we drink water that gives us some superpower. No, it's because we lived it. Many of us have lived it. I'm sure a lot of you guys have. From age one, from childbirth, right? For example, one of my favorite movies that I grew up with is called Walkout. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it or even seen it. It's about the 1968 walkouts in East Los Angeles. Students were protesting discriminatory practices in East Los Angeles schools. Latino students were. They walked out of schools in protest.
It's on HBO.
Fantastic movie, by the way. But a lot, for example, Latino fighters, boxers, right? We just have that tenacity, right? And I think in the professional context, it comes out as resilience. Like, we've seen a lot that I'm sure a lot of your non-Latino peers may not have seen. And that gives you the perspective, and that gives you just like that step above, right? Like, hey, oh, it's gonna be hard, but you know what? Like, I got it. I saw my parents do it. I saw my cousin do it. I saw my dad do it. I saw someone do it. And I think because you're surrounded by it so much, usually at such an early age, that when you're little, you don't realize it. You don't like feel like ganas or just whatever, like injecting it. No, you don't feel it. I think over time you build a certain level of resilience to where you know that, I mean, not just that, but you also realize that you got people counting on you. I'm sure if I walked in here, I'm sure if I asked every single one of you here, who is counting on you? I'm sure you could tell me, I'm sure like in an instant you can tell me one person, family member, father, mother, maybe a younger sibling, maybe someone who is counting on you. That's probably why you're here. That's
on a Friday.
That's probably why you're at Arizona State University. That's probably why you're in this club. That's probably what made you join. That's probably why you're a board member of this organization. Someone's counting on you. But what you don't realize, or maybe haven't realized, is that person counting on you, there's probably many more. And that, just by nature of just being human, has given you this level of just like resilience. And you don't know it yet. Maybe you don't realize it. I know we're in finals mode and you're like, oh crap, you're probably thinking about your final next week. You don't know it yet. But when you really sit down and when you really think about it, like really sit down and really think about it, man, we are resilient people. We really are. You got here already because you already are resilient. You haven't realized it yet. Maybe you haven't done that introspection, but you being here already have that superpower. You are resilient. That's why I think Justice Cruz is definitely correct that being a Latino is an absolute super. Aside from the food, of course, because everyone knows Latinos have the best food in the world, but you don't know it yet. But if you dig deep and you dig down and ask yourself that question, there's unquestionably resilience there at the core.
Yeah, that's amazing, and how we were able to basically use that ganas, that resilience to really polish those gems, as Salvador said, with the limited amount of resources we had. Going back to Cruz, just one last time, she did express that she wished that there existed some type of clubs that would provide these types of resources. When you were in college or law school or anything in general, what did you seek out? How did you find these type of resources in any aspect?
For me, similar. I think that if this club was around when I was an undergrad, I wouldn't have given up on wanting to be a lawyer. So I started undergrad wanting to be a lawyer. By the time I was a senior, I had completely given up on it. Because you hear that it's expensive, it's hard, difficult to get in. You might not even have a job afterwards. So yeah, I remember senior year, I was like, screw being a lawyer, I'm over it. I'm thankful for other organizations and nonprofits that I was a part of that kind of forced me back into that space. Because of that lack, that doesn't mean that there aren't clubs that can give you something beyond the law. To be honest, shameless plug, like my favorite and I think my smartest decision in college was to join my fraternity at ASU. Latino-based, multicultural membership, but it taught me so many leadership skills. And it taught me board dynamics, which you will see as you go into your fields. You think you left high school behind you? Trust me, high school's still out of you because people act like kids. Doesn't matter if they have a law degree or not. My advice to you is obviously continue to be involved here. I think you'll get a lot of resources that will be vital to your success, but also grow in different spaces in different ways. A lot of people say, well, I thought you needed a special major to go to law school. You can be an art major. And people may look at you weird, but I'll tell you this. That person that went to art and then went to law school is bringing a completely different set of skills than what I did, which was political science in law school. Not that it was any worse or any better or any bad. It's a different way of thinking and approaching a problem.
Yeah, that's great. And I feel like we shouldn't take events and clubs like these for granted, because I think, you may know us, and HSLA also provides a lot of resources that I think we shouldn't take for granted. But giving our last question of our questionnaire, before we open it to everybody to ask some questions, what is something about being a lawyer that people never tell you?
If you're doing it for the money, don't do it. There's plenty of other ways that you can make a killing, live comfortably, without having to go to law school. I think growing up in the community that I did, it's the only successful careers where you're a businessman, a lawyer, or a doctor. That is not the case. There's definitely multiple other ways that you can have a successful career. I remember being 10 years old and crying because my dad was too busy working in construction, and then after construction going to work at a restaurant. So basically being too busy to play with me. All the degrees hasn't broken that chain. Not just for this, obviously I'm here now, but throughout the week, I'll get home at 9, 10 o'clock at night. I didn't get a chance to play with my girls. So you think that the profession is what's gonna break a lot of your generational trauma, and sometimes it doesn't lead to that. So I guess in short, what I'm trying to get at is being a lawyer is not the end all. It's just another lesson for you to take, to master, and to better. Have some grace for yourself, dream big, and also be okay when it doesn't work out your way.
How many of you guys have seen the show Suits? I love how they glorify, by the way, the people that watch the show, they glorify like the night work, right? It's like you're at night and everyone's so happy and everyone's like, oh yeah, I got these big ideas at night, and like, people don't get tired. Like, no, people get tired, man. We're human. For me, at least, lawyering is not the elegant, I'm gonna make $500,000 a year off the start and I'm gonna change my wealth overnight kind of thing. It is not. It is a process. And for me, I think initially, honestly, that was a little hard to accept. I thought that, hey, I'm gonna be a lawyer. I come from very, very, poor family, poverty. And I thought, hey, after my first year, after my first couple of paychecks, man, I'm gonna take care of my mom. She ain't gonna have to work anymore. Like, I'm gonna take care of my dad. I'm gonna put some money aside. Like, I got it made, right? 10 years later, I'm doing well. But do I, like, it's not like that, And I think that, to his point, if you're doing it for the money, go sell medical devices. We do it, I do it. I think Chava does it for the right reasons because we like helping people. There's a lot of things that you kind of get involved with that I think in the lawyering world kind of become normalized that I wasn't used to, right? So, for example, I'll give you an example. I grew up, I'm talking like a very normal, Mexican household. I watched novelas at night. I watched football on the weekends. Go Chivas, by the way.
American.
Nah. But so, stuff like that. Right. That's what I did. So now, my first year at a law firm, I got a job at a law firm. They offered me all this money. I'm like, heck yeah, I'm gonna do it. No, like I couldn't relate. Right? Like they were talking about golf and they were talking about this and they were talking about that. I'm like, dude, I've never picked up a golf club in my life. Right? And then I go to my first golf tournament and I'm like, what do I do? And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to hit the ball and blah, blah, blah. But then what I realized was golf isn't about golfing. And this is the misconception that I had in my head, right? Because I see lawyers, I see the TV, they're all fancy, they're doing this, and they're rich, and they're doing that, and they're just uppity, and they're No, man. Lawyers, well, you have two of us here. There's a level of relation that I realized early on that I didn't realize when I was kind of in your shoes, right? People don't golf because they're good at golf. Heck no.
Everyone's bad.
People go to golf because it's networking. They want to go drink, they want to have fun, and they want to go have a great time. I went to my first board meeting, I remember, as a lawyer, and I'm like, man, I'm so scared to speak up. Everyone's going to be talking this language, blah, blah, blah. And let me tell you, man, you think all lawyers are brilliant and they're just, everyone's got sharp and, dude, some people are fools. Mm-hmm. No, I'm going to tell you straight up. I hate to say it that way, but not I don't know how you became a lawyer, man. But I guess what I'm trying to say is we're not some rare creature. Lawyers aren't some oh my God, I gotta transform myself and I gotta change my ways. I gotta change who I am. I gotta adapt, I gotta play golf, and I gotta wear these weird whatevers to become a lawyer. No. Matter of fact, you gotta stay who you are. I'm here to tell you, no. I'm here to tell you, be who you are, and the more you are, the reason we can talk to you here is because, man, we were in your shoes 10 years ago, right?
You don't think of yourself when you were in 5th grade that you're gonna try to become a high school student. You just became more you.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Don't think about, I have to try to become a lawyer. No, you're just becoming more you.
Be yourself. Don't change who you are. The more you try to be on yourself, the more you're gonna realize that you're not as happy. You're just not gonna be yourself. We're not rare creatures. We're really not. I think Bad Bunny was my #1 stream artist this year on Spotify, right? I'm probably a lot like most of y'all.
It's easy for us to say it's easy because I know we're on this side of it. But I remember at the time thinking how hard law school was. And I remember thinking how hard college is. And I remember thinking how hard studying for the SAT was. But I'm sure if I were to ask you, like, hey, is it hard to go through high school? Your instant reaction would be like, no, just go through it. That's how we look at law school now. Like, I think back and I'm like, oh, if I got another opportunity to go to law school for 1 year, I can breeze through it. But that's hindsight is 2020. Like, so yes, it is difficult, and I'm not saying you're not gonna face challenges and you're not gonna have to better yourself and strengthen different skill sets. But it's not impossible. It's not hard. It's just do it.
Thank you again. Thank you.